Hey everyone, welcome to your online cafe. I'm very happy to bring you the series that you have been wanting me to bring. So, starting this Sunday, we will pick up one mental health issue and we will address them. Dr. Vimal has very gracefully accepted to be a part of that series with me, and we will bring it to you till the time you would want me to bring it to you. So for today, we have picked up relationship and we picked up intimate relationship because again, it's a very broad topic and we had to narrow it down somewhere. So we will be focusing around the challenges of intimate relationship, which is your spouses, your companion, your partner. Please feel free to ask questions as we go along, because one of the reasons we are bringing this platform to you is so that we are able to address some of the issues, some of the challenges that you're facing, and hopefully we are able to bring in some breakthrough, some solution, so that you can create that balance which is required currently. Also, this pandemic situation is also not helping because we suddenly find ourselves constricted in both personal space and our physical space, and suddenly a lot of issues that we probably brushed under the carpet now is staring at us and saying, you know what, I need to be resolved, I need to be addressed. And so here we are, and with Dr. Vimal. So I will be introducing her, although a lot of you already know her, because it's also very special for me because I started my Blue Mug Chat series with Dr. Vimal. So very privileged to have her back with me, and to to have, and she's also agreed to be a part of the series with me. So let me introduce her, although a lot of you already know her, and then we can move on with the questions. Dr. Vimal is an experienced psychologist with over 18 years of experience in various fields of mental, clinical, and non-clinical setup. She worked with Dr. K's Hospital along with the founder of Dr. K's, late Dr. Vimal Kumar, a very well-known neurosurgeon and the founder of non-invasive active oxygen therapy in Delhi, for 6 years as a pain psychologist. Her key area of counseling for mental and emotional welfare includes issues such as relationship, abuse and its effects, adapting to change, workplace issues, accepting death of a loved one, dealing with terminal illness, chronic fears affecting day to day life, supportive counseling for mental illness caregivers, and more. Currently, she has her own little growing setup for counseling by the name of Ibdida. Dr. Vimal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sonal. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, same here.
Hello to all the viewers.
Doctor, that name sounds so beautiful, Ibdida. What does it mean?
Ibtida is a Urdu word which is a synonym for agaz. It means a beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's a beautiful name to a beautiful counseling unit. Actually, very
Yeah, I
positive.
think that is what counseling and intervention is like. It's when people come with a story about themselves and they go back with a different story. So it's a beginning of a newness in life.
Yeah. So
That
true.
that was the thought process behind it.
Yeah. So we can, get on with the show. Uh, Dr. Weber, it's a basic human need to have a companion or a partner or a spouse, to share your daily life, or, small issues, big issues. And it's a very basic need that we all have, and we all look for a relationship like that. Yet it's one of the most challenging aspects of bringing out the balance and the harmony that is required in a relationship. So why is that?
Yeah, we come into this world to find belonging. Connectedness, rootedness, belongingness is one of every individual's primary needs. We want to feel content, we want to feel secure and satisfied, and share our vulnerabilities with the people we trust. We find it in moments, but when we feel we are enough and there is nothing more we need. But you see, we also come into this world for a desire for novelty. We want adventure and we want recklessness. We want to go out and discover the unknown, and we take risks to feel the adrenaline rush. So both of them exist in us, in all of us. Uh, but you might find that some of you lean towards one, like more, more security, belongingness, predictability, continuity, familiarity, and safety. And some may lean towards adventure, discovery, curiosity, know the unknown, exploration, novelty, and mystery. These are the two sets of needs that human beings have, which we fulfill through relationships. These needs are fulfilled only through human connection, and the human connection is called relationship. In fact, connection of any kind, because we also have relationship with non-living things. Um, so it's about, if you have a partner who has a different set of needs, and you come, supposing you're a person who comes with more safety needs and the other person has more adventure needs, this is why it makes it challenging. It's not about being right or wrong. It's only about being different. Because most people who come to me, even if they are having a challenging time in a relationship, they tend to say that वो बुरा इंसान नहीं है, but we just don't get along, or that I'm really tired of making this relationship work. It's also a good thing to remember that we are only talking about two personalities when we talk about an intimate relationship. So, and I think that the awareness, breaking out of comfort zone, is the agent to change.
So it's actually about acceptance of the differences that two people bring to the table, and sometimes it's hard to accept those changes as we
Yeah, so
also.
sometimes I think it's a lack of awareness, Sonal, more than, because acceptance, of course, it plays a very important role, but it comes a little later. I think people are not aware that there are two sets of needs in a relationship.
So the struggle is knowing that need, narrowing it down, not maybe the communication, lack of communication, and yeah, we'll come
Yeah,
to
or
those.
even the lack of curiosity to even know the other person, because very often, if the other person doesn't come up to our expectations, we label him. He was different before marriage, and after marriage, he's a different person, or the fact that he's just not the person I married, or that he wants something different, so he's wrong. Most of the time, this is what we use for the other person, that because they don't come up to my expectations, they're wrong. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that it's not about being wrong, it's about being different. And it's about one, and more effectively, two people being aware of the differences and knowing how to make peace with the differences rather than resisting the differences.
Sometimes I think it's also about the difference in want versus need, as to what is it that you need in a relationship versus what is it that you want in a relationship, and that actually a lot of times is a cause of friction also in a relationship, right? So how do you address that?
Yes, that's a very good question. See, the wants come from beliefs, which come from fairy tales, books we read when we are growing up, theater, cinema, and also some of the beliefs, beliefs I'm talking about wants also come from where how we have seen our parents interact with each other. But the needs come from real life, and we don't want to be in the real life, especially if we have something to romanticize about. um, so largely that's the difference between the needs and the wants. See, no relationship lasts for a lifetime. You can have the same relationship with 1,000 people, or you can have 1,000 different relationships with a single person. It's up to you to decide. Very often, people are dynamic, human beings are dynamic, and they change. Let's just talk about a little bit about understand, for the sake of understanding, what is a relationship. A relationship is a story. It's, you have a story going for yourself and the other person has a story going for themselves, and by some circumstance or opportunity, you meet each other, and you like each other's stories, you're fascinated by each other's stories, and you say, okay, I want to be a part of your story, and the other person says, okay, I want you enough to be to want to be a part of your story, and you sign up with roles in each other's stories. um, if the roles are are signed up with awareness, and by clarifying what will my expectation be as your wife or as your queen, then there is more clarity and there is less space for ambiguity. But if the person goes into the role, signs up for the role, and then later discovers that this was not the role I signed up for, that is what creates the friction. It is it is not the intent, it is the lack of awareness of, and also the lack of awareness of one's own limitations, and the lack of awareness of the other people's expectations of them. So it is interesting how we human beings are thrilled by mystery, yet our curiosity always pushes us to discover more. And not knowing everything gives us a space for imagination and creativity. And this is true for relationships too. um, we don't hide we don't need to hide our truth in order to sign up for our role, but we just need to keep some things to be uncovered, and also come from a space of unknowingness, so that we build the relationship around creativity and imagination and discovering who the person is. See, today, earlier times, we married into mystery and unknowingness. There are stories of older people in our families where they say, मैंने तो देखा भी नहीं था, शादी हो गई थी. But today we marry to be emotionally safe. We don't want to take risks. We have more options, but do we have the ability to use those options? So I think today, in today's world, area in relationships.
Sorry, we just lost a bit of inter. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Vimal. I think we there was some Wi-Fi issue and we lost connection for a bit. Please go ahead.
Oh, so should I just go on, or do we want to repeat something?
Just go on.
Okay. So those who are surviving their relationship tend to live outside of it, and they basically try and show their best selves in their career and invest in energy into building social connections. But and this is because this is lacking today. We'll talk about the lockdown effect later on, but for those of you listening, I'd like you to remember that the people who are surviving their relationship tend to live outside of it. Once they come home to their partners, they feel that they have already put in all their energy, and they just want to chill. So they don't want to make any effort into their love relationship. That's one of the very big reasons why relationships go astray, or they kind of create a distance, and then it's hard to fill in the gap. Um, those who maintain a vibrant, fulfilling relationship are those who understand how to reinvent themselves, and they do so over and over again. But some people just get stuck with the role of being a wife or a mother or a sister, and that leads to boredom. And when things get boring, we tend to lose interest. It's again nothing right or wrong. It is just about how boredom works into the systems of human minds.
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we need to actively create and build our relationships, and to keep the energy alive permanently, and to keep the friction away.
There's a question. Rioman is asking that what is the subject matter of this talk? Rioman, today we are talking about challenges in a relationship, and I have Dr. Vimal Kumar, who is a senior psychologist. So we are addressing various issues surrounding an intimate relationship, which is your spouse, your partner, or your companion. So moving on, Dr. Vimal, one thing that you said, which is very interesting, is You have to stay in your truth, but at the same time, you need to leave something to the imagination. But in a relationship, as the relationship progresses, as the years progress, you tend to know the other person quite well, right? Then how do you maintain that balance that you just talked about, as to maintaining a little bit of mystery at the same time, being yourself and being honest, and be open in your communication about who you are. So how do you achieve that?
Yeah. See, to answer this question fully, let's understand a couple of terms that go into the relationship. Earlier on, like I'm talking about 100 years ago, we all belong to community living. We have moved from community living to nuclear living, and nuclear living means that the expectation is for one person to fulfill what a whole village used to provide for one person at once upon a time. So all the needs connected to companionship. So the model of marriage and intimacy have changed over the years. Um, Earlier, today we marry for companionship, social status, continuity, economic stability, and we want romanticism, and we want a passionate lover, and we want a confidant, and the husband needs or the wife needs to be my best friend, and the unending pillar of strength. And also, we want the comfort. We want the predictability and the stability and the familiarity. There are way too many needs, and to go to expect from one person, because in community living, different people used to provide different things. But today, in a relationship, intimacy means see into me, like into me you see. So you need to know me without me even without me expressing any of my needs and wants. You need to know me. If you have married me or if you love me, then you need to know me so well कि तो आपको पता होना चाहिए that in my for my next birthday I need blah blah blah. So it puts a lot of pressure on the person who's expecting, because when the expectation is not fulfilled, it's met with a lot of disappointment, thereby resentment, and from whom it is being expected, a lot of pressure indeed. Um, so this is one of the major changes that has happened over the year, which makes it challenging. There is also a positive side, because I think there is familiarity is also very good for the human mind and connection. So to a large extent it works, but we need to understand that human beings are dynamic, and the needs and the wants need to change with time as the person evolves, as you evolve as a person. So the expectations also need to change. Happiness used to be a mandate. Today happiness is a mandate. Like, you need to be happy. You could also give up being happy to be happier. But let's say in the 80s or 90s, it was something that was, you may find happiness in a marriage, or you may find happiness if you love someone. 100 years ago, happiness used to be something that you would find afterlife or in the heaven. So if we move from today to backward, and realize how much a terminology of that goes into making a relationship has changed over the years, it's phenomenal. And it's very it's very workable, it's very positive, but it's also challenging because it's a change. um, Back then, the rules for a relationship were made by other people. Other people said, this is the person you're going to marry, this is what you need to deliver, make two babies, bring them up. Babies, one needs to be a doctor, the other needs to be an engineer, and it was all done. Today, the rules are not made by other people. We have options, we have choices, but are we really equipped to handle those options and choices? So these are certain things that are making relationships a challenge in today's times. Uh, but the common thing is that back then we were in an interdependent world, and today also we are in an interdependent world. And if we choose to, we can make the best of all the privileges and facilities we have today. Also, a lot of awareness and exposure to relationships, which we did not have 100 years ago.
True.
So instead of raising our expectations towards our partners, we need to take a close look at what is missing from our social life. Do we feel we belong? Do we have people to rely on? And finally, how is our relationship with ourselves? And if you find these answers, you'll see your love relationship in a different light.
Yeah. I think self-reflection, self-understanding and self-love again is a very important aspect of any relationship, because once
Yes,
you're more accepting of yourself, you're more accepting of the other person as well. So that's a very good point. And
absolutely.
also, what are some of the trigger points that all the couples kind of falter at? Like, what are the basic trigger points that are very obvious, but at the same time they get repeated over and over by the couples, and which actually then creates the disharmony or the imbalance in a connected relationship otherwise?
Yeah, one of the tussles to begin with is the difference between needs and wants, like we already spoke about that in detail. The other one is that we don't, the belief that we own our partner. We don't own our partner. We need to believe that we are there for each other, but we can't own the other person. If we rewire that belief, the space in the relationship we will do wonders with. Um, Another point is a point of tussle is we need to believe people when they show us who they are the first time. There are clues and signs the whole time, but because we claim that we love the other person or that we are so into the relationship, we miss the signs, we miss the clues. And then one day when we awaken, we blame everything on the partner, saying that person has changed. And I'm not talking relevant to gender, because I think it happens regardless of gender. Um, so either so mindfulness in making choices, I think, is one of the important key areas in avoiding tussle. The other couple of things is the sameness. You know, there are also beliefs about the relationships. Like, I would like to mention some cultural beliefs that also bring around the tussle. That a woman, especially in our country where we are believe, women are raised to come up to other people's expectations, they often think that it's their responsibility to drive the relationship, whereas that is not true and that is not possible to do it. One can do it for a certain number of years depending on one's own saturation level, but it cannot go on. So beliefs about driving the relationship, and if one is not able to do that, then the guilt and the shame associated to it. um, it's not expressed, but it's passive aggressive, which creates tussles and various other meaningless things in a relationship. um, one other key area that creates a tussle is the sameness, because we get bored from the sameness of a relationship, the same frequency, the same type, the same thing, the same rejection over and over again of the other person. um, and There's also narrow definition around speaking about certain intimate areas of a relationship. And because they are never spoken about or expressed, it turns into latent anger. And that comes out in either body language or it is displaced on another issue. So these are some of the areas. Obviously, the list is endless, and it's also very individual. But these are some of the common areas which bring around tussles.
So all of us, pretty much all of us, know that there are some basic needs or a basic requirement that a relationship should have. which is mutual love, respect, care, acceptance of the other person, and you have to give time to nurture a relationship. In spite of knowing the basics, we still struggle to create a nourishing a relationship, right? Why is that? It's like on paper everybody knows what's needed actually, and I think if these basic needs are met, the number of challenges that we face on a daily basis will go down. There's always going to be ups and downs in life, but I think if these basic needs are met, at least for a certain extent, the challenges are lower, but we still struggle on almost on a daily basis. What is the reason behind that?
Yeah, I think some of the reasons are to do with one's own beliefs, and also because they are collective beliefs. Um, the mother has taught the same thing, the grandmother has spoken the same language, or the grandfather, so I think it's all to do with beliefs, but to make it more explicit and for the sake of understanding, um, let's talk about desire. Like, because a relationship has a lot to do with desire. So when desire is broken free of commitment, we commit from a platform of desire. But when desire is broken free of commitment, and then it goes looking for someone else or exploring, we put everything on stake. And we put the relationship on stake, which we have invested in for many years, with a lot of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual effort. This is because, um, like I mentioned, that the platform of relationships is to understand that human beings are born with the two sets of needs that I had mentioned, and the needs are in a group format. And there is a need to break some rules that we have had for that many years, and to understand the importance of breaking the rules. But breaking the rules does not mean hurting the other person or getting angry with the other person. It is to sit down and recalibrate a relationship. Relationships are dynamic, and so are needs. So after every year, maximum, you know like I said, relationships are like stories. We edit stories, but we don't edit relationships. We need to sit down and talk about what is not working and also what is working. It's important to build the relationship on what we have, and also to understand what's not working, only to change it, not to keep blaming each other about it. What we once desire so bad gets to a point where we feel it's imprisoning us. This is a very common thing that happens in a relationship. That for example, it's the charm of a woman or a male that attracts the other gender into the relationship, and then it gets to a point where the charm becomes the enemy in the relationship. um, and romanticism, beliefs around romanticism are so detrimental. Things like, you complete me, and if you are my confidant and my passionate lover, then you need to know, and and there is an endless list of things that they need to know. um, it's because if the expectations are endless, so is going to be the pressure. So we need to learn to take responsibility for our needs and not pass it on to the other person. And one of the other things, lastly, I'd like to mention is that we need to use imagination to make and build a relationship. It gets mundane, it gets boring, and people say, "Oh, after 10 years of marriage, what do you expect?" It does get like that. It doesn't need to. It does because there is no effort being put into it, but it doesn't need to go there. It can still be. You could discover how the other person has changed, how you have changed. Talk about it. A lot of it has to do with communication, because I think we stop communicating, and especially we don't communicate about the difficult things in the relationship. um, Three essential checks for a relationship are: do you have a ritual in a relationship, do you have a routine to the relationship, and do you have boundaries in a relationship? Since we are talking about friction, but I would also like to, because if you check this, then you would know where the friction is coming. Ritual means, like, if there's a decision for the family to maybe have lunch or dinner together, go out on a holiday every year, not just do it as a task, but to actually enjoy being there with each other, not to be occupied with for every person to be on their phone. Um, a routine, a routine of life, which is important, and boundaries. Like, what are the things that the other person doesn't like? So don't step on that tail. Stay away from it.
That's that's a very good point actually. So you said rituals, routine, and boundaries.
Yes,
And one other aspect that you said, which I think is also equally important, is that every year you sit down with your partner and go through the things that are working and go through the aspects that are not working, and then revisit them as to how to address them, right? Um,
yes, yes,
One thing that keeps coming back into the conversation, Doctor, is also the newness, like that we need to maintain the newness in a relationship, yeah, right? That's a very challenging aspect, as we already discussed, right? What are some of the ways that you can actually bring that freshness and the newness in spite of being together for many years? Because that I know for a fact that that's one of the challenges that every couple faces. Because yes, it does get a little bit of a drag. Yeah, you are there for the kids, but how do you maintain that zing into your life? Like, you know, how do you create that balance going?
yeah. Largely, Sonal, the newness comes from activities. Most of the people, um, after they get married, and especially years into the marriage, after children, things just start to die down. Like, there's no interest in anything. There is no proactive enthusiasm to pick up a new hobby, learn something different, work at something that may not really pay them, but that will rejuvenate their intellect, make them explore, make them reinvent and recalibrate. Because activities also provide things to talk about with the partner. And if both people do it, and if they encourage the children to do it, apart from getting after children to study and get a 90 or a 95%, if this is also, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I am saying is that's not the only thing. So if there are um, I get to see a lot of couples, and I think the couples who are engaged in their, like, with each other, but they also have individual interests, like to meet their friends, socialize. They have rituals of their own, to have a reunion with their school or college friends, and the partners go along. It kind of provides things to interact on, and a new, things to talk about and things to do together. So again, it will be individual because everybody has different things to do, and everybody has different interests and different lives, different context in life. But these are activity is the key area to bring out newness.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And talking about the pandemic, actually, suddenly you find yourself in this new normal where a lot of people are working from homes, kids are being tutored online. So you're actually you're together for much longer duration than you're used to, and that is also creating a lot of friction because there's a lack of personal space and physical space at the same time. So how do you, and I think we don't even know how long will this pandemic last. So is there some message that you would like to give out to the couples out there dealing with that friction as to how they can maintain harmonious and good connectedness in spite of the challenge that we are in, because we don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah, it's largely the reason for this is because during the lockdown, the the lockdowns kind of narrowed the space between people, and uh, it's having a negative influence because it's narrowing down our space on many platforms. The emotional platform, like you mentioned, they stay together. The mental platform, because they are only engaged in the day-to-day running of the house. All the other activities except from work and running the house has stopped. There is also narrowing down in terms of loss of plans and planning forward, nothing to look forward to. um, so in a way, actually, lockdown's a time where psychologists have been predicting that either there will be a baby boom or there will be a divorce boom, because it is such a testing time for the duration of the time of being together and having very little to do. Um, but the good things are also, because positives have also come out of it, because a lot of the relationship have actually improved. People who have been going for walks together, doing things in the house together, they have discovered different parts of the other person, like different characteristics and attributes of the partners that they've never known before, because it has never been expected of the partner before. So in that space, positives have happened. um, so one is the but the flip side of the lockdown has been that there is narrowing down of space, and there is people, I think, felt alone earlier, and now they feel lonely even when they are in the family, because of loss of communication, and a sudden surfacing of some latent anger related to the relationships or family matters has been surfacing. It has also made space for stress around meeting uncertainty and the prolonged sense of the threat of the disease, the concern about collective safety. It's turned on, very often we live in a culture where we pass on our uncomfortable feelings onto the other person, and we don't really take responsibility and process them. So it's brought around a space where it's made it very convenient for us to pass on our anger and our fear and our concerns, and have begun to control each other. And that is where it is not working. There is, because one begins to fragment under so much of pressure, and panic is a problem, anxiety cannot be managed,
Right.
the ability to respond uh, has gone down, because even if one is imaginative and curious, there are very little options. Because but now that with the lifting and the easing of the pressure, we have more things to do. It is getting better. There is, and the positive side of that is also important to mention. There are people who have had life changing experiences during the lockdown and have felt a lot of gratitude and appreciation for a lot of things that they'd never looked at before. That life is actually really good for them, and it's great for them, because seeing how very little privileges can bring to surface in a challenge, versus people who have the privileges to manage and go through a crisis and a challenge of this kind. So engage in creativity and playfulness with your children. I think people who have never played board games have been playing board games, and that's again the positive side. But there are people who have gone super digital and got hooked to screens and play games on social media or the online streaming stuff, may want to kind of take a check and back off from that habit. So our resources come from our experiences, especially challenging experiences. So there is a overall sense of grief, because there is a loss of freedom, liberty, and planning. There is which also gives us the opportunity to relook and recalibrate and self regulate our life. Um, so I've given you both the perspectives, and I think it's upon each individual to make a choice to what to choose, because it can go either way. There is, we don't have a choice in choosing what life throws at us, but we do have a choice in making it work for us the way we may not want to, but we may need to.
Yeah. And one of the things that you also mentioned, which I would like to highlight again to the viewers, is that once we are done with our work, we feel like our work is done and we need to chill. What we don't realize is that, you know, at that point, if a little bit of effort is made towards nurturing that relationship, maybe because all it takes is a very little care, little respect for it to actually rebuild. So instead of thinking that the work, the working hours is the end of the day, I think maybe it could be a beginning of your effort towards your relationship, and that might also help because there are not too many avenues outside of see, earlier we had a lot of social channels outside, which
Yeah,
also really really helped us. There were
yeah,
travel plans, which again actually channelized our energy into so many different directions. But yeah, with the current scenario, you're absolutely right. We will have to,
yeah.
and it has bring in a lot of positivity also. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. So I'd like to add here, that if we want to feel passion in a relationship, even after decades, we must keep the passion alive in the other areas of our lives as well.
Yes,
We often neglect that. And like you said, so what I hear you say, Sonal, is that actually the key lies in engaging yourself in activities,
yeah,
because if you need to keep the passion alive in the other areas of our life, we need to engage in activities, and
right.
activities can change. Of course, the social engagement was a lot more, but I also remember people were quite sick of that too.
Yes, yeah. It
So we
was
need
too.
to we also need to understand, are we really complaining because that's become our habit to do so, or are we really experimenting and exploring and recalibrating towards finding different avenues in life? What and if we are not doing that, then what is stopping us? Because we can. There are options, there are choices, and we have a lot many options to choose from today than we ever did like 50 years ago, maybe, or 8 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. And also we need to recalibrate our expectations, right? As you rightly said, there's too much expectation from just one person,
Yeah,
and so not every tangent, not every spectrum of your own personality can be fulfilled by by that one person, either way, either spouse. So I think it is it's very important to have different scenarios in your life that actually work for you rather than putting all your eggs in one basket. And see, relationship it brings about a different fulfillment. But like you said earlier, it was a whole community that was actually responsible for bringing the kids, for bringing the relationship. Now it's with the nuclear families, it's just two of us. So we need to actually start looking at avenues for ourselves so that we are more intellectually engaged, emotionally pick up hobbies, read books. I mean, there are so many things that we can do. So you're absolutely right on that. I think I have pretty much asked all the questions that I need to. I'm quickly going to say hello to everybody who's joined us. Hi Farooq, hi Rehman, hi Sangeeta, Subhash, Lata. Dr. Vimal, is there any message that you want to give out to the viewers?
I would like to say, since we're talking about relationships, I would like to say that um, we need just accept the fact that we need relationships, and we can only value relationships if we look beyond what the other person is saying, what the other person is doing, what the other person is gifting or giving, and maybe rewire it and look forward to areas that I want to do to connect with my partner. Like, what are the, and make it creative, do things that maybe you have never done before. Um, and also then ask the partner to do it with you, not um, request them or ask them. Don't just demand it out of the other person, because that again adds to the pressure that, don't you know that I wanted to go to blah 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 for my birthday, so we need to go. No, can we go, maybe a better way of going about it.
Yeah. So I don't see any questions from the viewers. Maybe there's an inhibition in asking questions on a public platform. I don't know, but I surely hope that the questions that we discussed, and there are so many good points that Dr. Vimal has addressed, and I really hope that it brings about some relief, some answers, some breakthrough to the challenges that you're facing. And I surely hope that it will bring about the balance that we are all striving to get in a relationship. Um, like I said, this is a series. So next Sunday, we are actually bringing a very different aspect of a relationship, and challenges associated with those aspects. So watch this space for details. I'm gonna send out the details soon. And I will also see you on my Blue Mug chat this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Dr. Vimal, for being a part of this series.
Thank you, Sonal.
Always
Thank
a
you,
pleasure to
viewers.
talk to you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. See you soon. See you Thursday and then next Sunday. This is just Sonal signing off. Bye bye. See you soon. Bye.